Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode number 42 for the week of January 23rd. I almost said 19 something. 2012. My name is Ryan Hickens. I'm joined by my always faithful sidekick and companion.
Sidekick?
Yeah.
Jackass.
You heard me.
Oh, really?
What's your name?
Really?
Brock Sager.
Brock Sager.
Brock Sager. What's your name, Brock Sager?
Brock Sager.
All right. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
No Toby tonight. He's been incommunicado, AFK, not available, not answering his phone. I assume he was kidnapped by ninjas. Hopefully we find out next week. Normally, at the start of every episode, prior to like the last handful of episodes, we would read an email or two. We kind of slacked on that, so we're going to kind of do a little catch-up. There wasn't a ton of news to talk about this week, so
there's a big thing, but we already kind of brushed on it.
There's stuff, but we'll go over some stuff. But for the most part, we're just going to answer a bunch of your emails. So
what the hell was that?
That's my announcer voice.
That's your announcer voice?
So if you want to have your email read on this podcast and have us try to answer it as incoherently as possible, you should send us an email at thecomicconspiracy@geekbox.net. Or you can go to www.comicsconspiracy.biz and you can send us an email through there. Or you can go to geekbox.net and go to the contact forum and send us an email through there. Or you can go to forums.geekbox.net and post in the comic forum. You can ask your questions there. And if you're like, hey, you should read this in the podcast and answer there, we'll do that too. Or you can go down to the store and just ask us in person, and then we can relay the conversation on the podcast. Or if you have mental telepathy, you can, just...
I don't know why I'm letting you continue with this rant.
Put it into my head, and we'll relay it.
We'll get it. We get it.
Yes, man.
You call you'll record the phone conversation.
Yeah, we got to get on that. Anyway, so but of course, the one news thing that was worth talking about this week that we didn't want to talk about real briefly here before we get onto the emails was, of course, the official 100% official reveal of the new DC logo. I think people are calling it the Flip. Is that the name?
I think they're calling it the Band-Aid.
Jesus, boring.
Boring or
yeah, that's the boring pre-official announcement name. So yeah, we'll call it the Flip.
Well, I just want to know what shoe company that it mirrors, because third time's a charm, right?
So for those that haven't seen it, DC has released an official new logo that's going to start in their books in March, if I'm not mistaken, and on a bunch of their upcoming products and titles. It is a pretty cool logo, I have to admit. I know last week we were bagging on it pretty heavy, just because the black and white image. It's boring.
It was too static. It was blah. I mean, I can see the use for it for digital media, for online media, all that stuff.
Hold on. What the image actually is like we assumed, it's not a static image. It is an animated image that they haven't officially revealed the image yet, but you can see where they're heading with these colored versions, which is the D is kind of like a silver in the front, and the C it's revealing, or I guess it's taking away the secret identity of the... It's called like the secret identity logo or whatever. It's like what they're calling it.
Really?
That the D,
they're putting this much thought into this logo?
The D is peeling off the Clark Kent or Bruce Wayne persona. For the C in the background is stylized like the character. So the Green Lantern one is like all glowing green. The Flash one it looks like it has like the super speed trail and stuff. It's actually pretty fucking cool. I'd have to admit, seeing it in person... at least even the static image, I think it works really well. Seeing it in color, seeing it all accessorized, I actually really, really like it. It's pretty neat. Clearly, there will be some may not work as others, but I'm sure once we see the actual animated logo, it'll be pretty cool. You have to, they had an animated version of the swirl, so.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, it's really good for media. Like they had it on their Hunger campaign thing that they shot out today, where the heroes stand up.
Well, the DC Entertainment logo is sort of the plain gray, black and white version of it, which that is a corporate logo. So the ones for the various books and various titles and the various is sort of this it's different. It varies, and that's actually pretty cool. They showed some preview of the book or of the logo on books, and the D went all the way to the edge of the title. It went to the very border, and that's actually a pretty. You don't see that a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like it went to
there's no
the left side of the D.
There's no space in between.
Right, it went right to the border of the panel, or the page of the cover of the page. So it's actually a pretty cool looking image. I have to admit, I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
I enjoyed the images. They had that little kind of variety splash image of the Green Lantern and a couple of the ones with the colors and stuff.
Don't forget the Watchmen one.
And the Watchmen one with the little bird shit of a blood stain. But again, honestly, we're going to have to get used to them.
I'm sold.
I'm not sold on the actual comic books, like them actually being on the comic books, because to me it's too static of a logo to kind of put on the comics, whereas DC's kind of had, at least with the Bullet, you had, this brand with the swoosh. You had this brand with the Converse looking one. You had a brand.
Well, those were
the Bullet and really a brand.
The Bullet and the swirl were static images. I mean, that's what they are. This, to me, again, I think someone that doesn't know what it is may be a little confused. But I think if they have the text DC Comics underneath it, it'll be a lot more clear. And over time, I think people will get it.
It's something I think that we're going to get used to.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all.
It doesn't bother me for the digital media. Like I said, the digital media, all the stuff online, all the entertainment stuff, all the, and stuff where you can actually animate it and see it moving.
Right.
That's cool. Whereas when you come to the comic book, I thought it was great that they started changing the color on the swoosh logo for the New 52 stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave it a good variety. Like, it was really enjoyable. But to take a new logo completely and throw it on there where the logo itself is static, even adding a little bit of color and a little bit of that what is it? There's one that looks like black ribs or something.
Yeah, that one's kind of weird. I don't know what that was all about.
It's cool that they have that, but I don't know how well that's going to translate onto the page as being a brand that people are going to recognize.
Well, we've already seen them, and I think they work. What's interesting is, I assume...
We haven't seen them.
Yeah, I haven't
held it in my hand and seen it.
You've already seen the image. What I assume the animated image is going to be is the D, and you see it peel away to reveal the C underneath, and then that either peels away or fades away, and then you see the static image that just says DC Comics underneath. That's how I have a feeling they're going to do this, because the whole peeling off the D is sort of what they're going for. So
I know, we'll see. With how it's animated and stuff like that, but I really don't feel it's going to work for the actual comic books.
Well, you've already seen them on comic books. They already have
seen it physically in my hand.
Not in your hands, but they've had the mock-ups. And
they had the mock-ups, and the mock-ups don't look that great.
Okay. Well, they look good to me. Haters going to hate, Brock.
That's a DC whore over there.
and you're a hater.
And to your thing of where it goes right up to the edge, it's just going to get cut off. Have you seen what they've been doing with a couple issues where it's sliced the top of the DC logo off?
Yeah, most of the time. It's fine. All right, well, we're going to spend the rest of this episode probably wandering off topic.
Emails.
We're wandering off topic constantly, but let's hit some emails here and see where this goes. First email. So these go back to mid-December. It tells you how far back it's been since I've read some emails. First one is from Brandon. He says, "Hello, I love the podcast and have been listening since episode 1. Brock is right. It should be called The Rejiggered 52.
Thank you.
Green Lantern and Daredevil on Blu-ray are both great films." Brock can't officially endorse that subject.
I can't endorse Green Lantern.
And I see both sides of the Big Bang Theory argument. I personally find the show enjoyable, if for no other reason than staring at the girl who plays Penny.
See, why am I'm glad you're reading this.
Why?
I'm just glad. It's a nice little, you read it.
Well, no, because the rest of it has nothing to do with you.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Now with that out of the way, on to my question. One of my favorite parts of the podcast is Ryan talking about the business side of things, i.e. what sells and what doesn't sell and why. Oh, great. We have one that likes it. All right, good.
I like it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I like it when we talk business, but you don't actually talk enough. I try to entice you to talk a little bit more, and you're like, oh, no. Got to keep that hidden.
Well, there is a limit to what I'll talk about.
The numbers we're looking at versus the numbers you're looking at. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a sort of sensitive subject.
There's always a limit to what I'll talk about for business stuff, but I'll talk most of it. I mean, there's not a lot I won't not say publicly. I've been contemplating the idea of opening my own store one day. If you had to suddenly start all over again with nothing but you and your friend's collection of books, how would you open a store, or would you even try on this economy? He kind of gives some info about his area. He also says, I think I would need an additional hook to separate myself from the other stores nearby. Any ideas? I appreciate any insight or advice you can give. Thanks, Brandon. The hardest thing opening a store, and I got lucky, because when you open a store, I bought a store that already existed, already had a customer base. I mean, from the day before I bought the store to the day I bought the store, there was nothing changed. Right? The transition was very smooth. There was nothing weird happened. Opening a store totally cold is really hard. Really, really hard. Now, if you're in like a pretty bohemian place, or like a Portland or a New York City, you're probably a little bit easier. If you have the money, you can get into like an artistic area. It's probably a little bit easier. But especially if you're, because he said he's on the border of Maryland and Peninsula. He's on the border of Maryland and Pennsylvania. I'm sorry.
Peninsula?
Peninsula.
What the hell?
I really just, I read that out of
from Boston?
I read that out of the corner of my eye. It says it's about store 30 miles away. It sounds like there's a lot of open areas and a lot of places going out of business in the area. Real hard in smaller areas to open a store, because you have to figure, if there's only let's say 10, 20, 30,000 people in your city, how many of them are going to read comics? I mean, this isn't the 90s where everyone had tons of money to throw around.
Well, this isn't the 40s and 50s and 60s when
there were no comic book shops back then.
Yeah, but when people, when kids would buy comic books just off the rack, like boom, boom, boom. I mean, we still have spinner racks for a reason.
No, the difficulty with this is you're just simply not going to get enough customers in your area. If you're in a bigger city, if you have access to a bigger area, or if you are internet famous in some way and can draw a lot of people to do mail order, that's always great. But if you're just going it cold and there's no existing store and there's no existing customer base for you to take over, very, very difficult. Tons of, just beating the pavement, trying to get out there and get word out. If you have a con near you, that may be a good place to start getting word out. You could advertise like crazy. Get online. Go on the Comic Book Industry Alliance, the CBIA. It's a retailer forum. Really hit up Diamond. Get on their programs, because they have programs for new stores when they open that will give them, max discounts and special bonuses to kind of get stuff in the store. It's real hard, though. Real hard. I'll gladly, Brandon, if you want to ask me questions, if you really do this, give me a call or at the store or shoot me an email. I'll answer any question you have from, an actual business point of view, because it's damn hard. So there you go. And starting any business this day is impossible. So
yeah, I mean it's hilarious, because we've seen so many, or at least I have seen so many businesses go in and out of just this complex. In the 4 years I've been back to reading at this complex, we've lost.
Well, 90% of small businesses fail within a year, and that's just the nature of it. It's really hard, because you're shelling out so much money for inventory, so much money for stock. The thing that I've always told people is, if you calculate it out to be, let's say, $100,000 for stock, so not only do you need your stock, your supplies, your fixtures, your light, your rent, and all that stuff. You need rent for a year, not just at your store, but at your home as well. Yeah. So if you're paying, we pay like $1,800 out here for rent after that. But let's say he's paying, $1,200 for rent, or if he owns his own house or mortgage or whatever. Yeah. Let's call it $1,000, and let's say the place to rent's $2,000. So you need, $3,000 a month.
36.
Times 12,
36.
Right?
36,000.
Plus your opening stock, right? You need all that money. You need to pay yourself. You need your rent and bills at home. Now, take that number, double it. That's what you need to start with. You need to expect you're going to fail miserably. Yeah. And you need to get, so you're talking opening a store at less than $250,000, $300,000 is not going to happen. Yeah. You need some serious cash to start it. Just because that is why the businesses fail, because they're like, well, we're open. Oh shit, I made $9 this week. I can't pay my bills. Well, that's why you then get all this extra money because, oh shit, here comes Toby. Here comes Toby. Oh man, we're gonna have to set up another microphone here.
Son of a bitch!
All right, Brock's gonna set up another microphone here while I just continue recording here because it's great. This is the problem when we go to record a podcast, and when I try to pause it, like it kind of gets all fucked up and stuff. So let's just let me grab another email here. And Brock will try to do what he's doing here. This is not a video podcast, so you guys are super bored. All right, I'm going to move on here. We got another email from our good friend Jens, who had emailed us previously. He says, "Dear people of the Comic Conspiracy Podcast, whoever is there this time, I don't want to exclude anyone." That would be Brock and now Toby. I've just received my second monthly shipment of single issues and suddenly realized that I have a problem. I'm not sure how to store my single issues. Now that I have close to 100, a simple stack on top of some trade paperbacks and on a shelf doesn't seem to do it anymore. I know about bags and boards. Most of my stuff is in bags with boards, especially my precious Astro City issues. Best superhero series ever. Don't even try to argue. I won't disagree with that. Astro City is one of the best series I've ever read, so there you go. Let's see. But do you know what kind of boards and bags to buy? There seem to be a bit of a selection. Do you have any recommendations concerning material or brand? Also, is a short, long box the only practical way of storing bagged and boarded issues? What can I do to preserve the issues as best as possible while still being easily readable? Yeah, you know, the question of supplies and sorting is always one that I get a lot of. And the reality is, if you want to keep them the best, you got to keep them in those bags and boards. You got to keep it in a long box. I mean, you can get a filing cabinet, you can get a bookshelf, you could store them however you want, but those long boxes tend to be the best. There's not a whole heck of a lot of options. There's just, it really isn't. I mean, you can use your regular boards. You can use the white boards. There's a lot of different ones that you can use, but they tend to be pretty standardized across the industry. Other than that, I think there's not a heck of a lot more to do. Yeah. If you have your books in a house, and the house is just, you know, mildly temperate, not crazy hot or cold, just normal temperature most of the time, you can get away, especially modern books. You don't need bags and boards. You can keep them in the boxes. You can just stack them nice, make sure they're not, you know, getting smashed together, make sure they're not super loose, falling all over the place. But, yeah, you're fine. Even getting, you know, like those old dot matrix printer folder with, like, boxes. You can pull, like, 10 comics facing one way, flip the other 10 the other way, so the spine's the opposite way, so they sort of stack up. I do however you want to do. I know we've talked a few times about the drawer boxes. They have like the pull-out doors and all. Those are pretty cool. So yeah, there's a ton of options. So there you go.
There you go.
Hey, Toby.
Yo.
How's it going?
Good.
Is your mic on?
Yes.
Is it on?
Yes.
You have to turn the volume.
Oh, hey. How about I turn the mic up? How about now?
Hello.
Hey, it's Toby. What's up?
What's up?
Made it.
You can add a mic mid-podcast.
Yeah, you can.
Woohoo.
Yeah. Toby's been incommunicado today. I didn't know he was going to be here, so we just started.
No,
So-
I told you I was going to be here.
Yeah, but then you haven't responded to me for like 7 hours on AIM or something.
Something called work.
I don't know anything about that. Oh, snap. So we discussed briefly the new DC logo.
Oh, the new one.
The actual release one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's your thoughts on that? What's your take?
I'm still not feeling it. The lighting is cool though.
You like the C in the back?
I like the lighting on some of them. Like there's a
Yeah.
yellow one, I think, which I'm guessing is for the Sinestro Core.
Well, there's the Flash one.
Is that
what
the
you're
Flash
thinking of?
one?
I'm
Maybe.
assuming that's Flash.
Yeah,
the Green
maybe.
Lantern one looks good.
Yeah, I mean a couple of them look kind of cool, but we'll see. I mean, it makes a lot more sense now, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I like the old DC one, but you know, when they converted from the old DC, well, not the old one, but from the traditional DC with the star on to
Sure.
the new one with the star,
Sure.
I thought that was a legit update and had nothing against it.
Yeah.
This one is a little of a different update, but you know,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? They
Yeah.
already decided, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. The other question was, we're doing all emails today mostly, and one of the first email was about opening up a store cold. Now I know for half a minute.
What I mean, cold, like
just
on its own.
On its
like,
own.
yeah, fresh. Yeah.
Now, and I know for half a minute you sort of looked into opening a store.
Yeah.
Either taking over an existing store, like the way I did, or
Yeah.
before you kind of got your main job and kind of
Yeah.
What's
It was a little more than half a minute, but yeah.
What's your sort of, especially in the last couple of years, would you even consider that at this point?
Well, no, because I'm loyal to you, Ryan. So, no, I would not consider it. Yeah, so unless it was somewhere else and it is in conjunction with you. But, yeah, I was working at a store that I worked at since high school, and I was preparing to take over the store, like, completely. In the possible last second, the rent wasn't what it's supposed to be, and which kind of threw all my math off. So it's like me and the financial guy I had were like, this is not worth it if the rent's this high, But if the rent was what it was promised, I would actually be a comic book store owner like you, Ryan, at this point, and running the shop like you are, literally. The same thing. Since that didn't work out, we actually did look into opening our own store up, and we looked at some locations, even though there's far too many comic book shops here. So we were going to do a little more, reach out to other entertainment stuff, just to be a little different. It's hard to compete when you drive a couple of blocks, there's another shop.
Well, he said the closest shop was a half an hour away, but he did say that, you'd kind of want to think of, you have another hook, another reason to get in
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
At the time, not now, at the time, the internet cafes were hot.
Yeah.
So we were gonna do like an internet. We were looking at a big enough spot where the front would be like big enough to handle like LAN parties and internet stuff, and we're gonna do it so that the shop will be open like late. They can come and hang out, and the comic book shop will be the other half, like the behind half was the original plan. Which at a certain hour you can maybe close down and stuff, and just worry about the front half.
No, I've long since stated that I thought a comic store mixed with something that's open late hours would actually work really well.
I really do think so still.
It's just the problem is you get away from having comics be your main line, whether it's an internet cafe or a gaming store or a coffee shop. Or
the thought process behind it is just because in this area alone, just, everybody, there's like a comic book store every like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So we had to be something different. There's one that was more specialized in toys. You were more specialized here with comics. Well, at that point you were running you were running the store, but it wasn't yours yet, right?
Right.
So this one is still a little more than just comics, but it was like a different way of. A different hook to it, right? Now, I do believe a comic book shop is very much like a bar. Where, people come and hang out as a cultural thing, right? So I do think a comic book shop that opens late into the night could actually be really cool.
Well, and what's funny is how many times there's a popular electronics store around here called Fry's Electronics.
Yeah.
How many times is 1 o'clock in the morning rolled around and you're like, oh shit, I totally need this part. I wish Fry's was still open.
Yeah.
I kind of think you could sort of get away with that, like a comic/culture type of store, because man, sometimes. I tell you, I was craving this Legion Superman crossover the other day, and I was at work here, and I was like, man, if I was at home, I'd want the store to be open.
Yeah,
I would go get my issues. So it's like, I think in certain areas, you're like, and what I had said earlier is opening cold in a New York or a San Francisco or a real artsy area could work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But kind of the even in a place like Sunnyvale, it'd be really hard.
Yeah, Yeah, it would be. That's why we had a different hook on it. So we looked at all the rent in different places. You have to consider all the insurance and all of that stuff. You have to look at everything. There's a lot of stuff. Most people trying to open a store just think, hey, it's just the stuff. It's not it. There's a lot of things.
Shelves and product.
Yeah, it's not it. There's so much behind the scenes going on. There's so much going on. You think you figured everything out, and you really don't. So, but. That didn't really work out. My financial partner decided to invest his money in something else, which is fine, and Ryan here bought the store, and I got to align myself with Ryan. So, that part is really, I'm done with that part. I wanted to do it at one point, but I'm going to concentrate on my filmmaking and my day job and help Ryan here. So, that's kind of it. Yeah. Maybe down the road. If we all make a lot of money, or I'm a successful filmmaker, we can open up another shop somewhere else down south in conjunction.
Toby's Secret Stash.
Yeah. F. Kevin Smith. No, I'm kidding. I like the guy. So
Actually, that goes perfect into an email you have to read there, Brock.
all right.
Oh no!
All right.
Yeah, we don't have any. I
Is
would
it the
have
first one?
I would have forwarded you. I would have forwarded you a couple emails, but to read on the air. But I guess I didn't. So well,
That's all right.
You could just
it's all right.
answer.
I'm not a really good reader,
okay.
so
All right, this one is from Kyle L.
Actually one of our customers.
Kalel.
Oh, it is nice.
Oh.
He's interested in the Geek Box and the Comics Conspiracy's thoughts on Kevin Smith's upcoming AMC show, Comic Book Men. It is AMC's first unscripted show. The ad poster and promotional photos look kind of dumb, but I'm willing to give it a shot if it's clever enough. What are some of the things you hope the show addresses or avoids about comic store culture? And he says, stay frosty.
Now, did you guys see the trailer for that?
I actually haven't
I
yet.
haven't.
Oh, really? Neither of you guys have?
No. It's almost one of those things. I hate to say it's. I fear it's going to kind of end up being like that Big Bang Theory sort
you're
of
gonna
me
hate
going
it
like
completely.
No, the way it looks like this. Us here recording, except for the fact they're showing them talking.
right.
Yeah, it seems like a podcast recording. It looks amusing. I mean, but it's a trailer, so trailers
Right.
always look amusing. It is Kevin Smith. He knows how to talk and be funny, and
Yeah.
But
is it? It's not scripted, but it's a story.
Is this a
right?
reality
No.
TV show?
Not,
it-
not really.
It seems more like guys in the industry, like not creators. It's Kevin Smith, and it seems like it's a couple of comic book store owners, a couple of hardcore fans, maybe,
Yeah.
at a round table and just talking about it.
But it's like it's at the store, right? Like it's sort of like the way it.
I don't
seemed
know.
to me-
I mean,
I didn't see the
there's
trailer.
shots. There's shots with stores in the background of talking, but the actual them in the round table or whatever table it is,
That's separate.
I think they're just talking.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah, I
if-
mean, I could be wrong.
If this show is shot Arrested Development style, unscripted, in a store, that would be awesome.
It could be.
Think about it. You would love that.
I'm willing to give it a shot, but I kind of just thought it was going to be some guys sitting around arguing about crap. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's kind of what the trailer looks like.
I
Really,
already get that all day long.
yeah.
Again,
now-
this is the Big Bang Theory problem.
They're gonna alienate every comic book store owner, and all the comic book people aren't gonna watch it, but everybody else in America is because of Walking Dead.
Well, here's there's actually the reason why I know about it is Bleeding Cool, our partner in this, posted an
Unofficial.
article. Yeah, I was unofficial partner in this, right? Posted it was Jill Pantuzzi, whatever her name is. She writes a lot for Bleeding Cool, and she posted a blog spot on Bleeding Cool or article, whatever you want to call it, about how she tried out for the show, and her friend Zoe. Gullikin, somewhere. She's on Twitter. She's Bookish Bell, I think she's called. Her friend actually got on the show. They said she was casted, and then last possible, they actually let her go. So it became like an all-man cast. Now, Jill's article was like, you know what, this show would have benefited if there was a female on the show. Mm-hmm. It would have benefited the comic book culture if a female was on the show. Not just there was just dudes talking about, our comic books. That if a girl would be there, either defending certain books or saying, some books are not good, it would have benefited the show overall.
Well, if you look at, all the G4 shit and Attack of the Show and all that stuff,
yeah.
there's always like, the hot girl on the sideline.
But no, these are, Jill, if you read her articles, she definitely is into the comic books, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you read her stories, she knows what she's doing, and it seems like this Zoe chick too, But, they didn't want her around, so I don't know what happened there. It would have been interesting, I think.
She did say something about having like a comic book women, like a second season or something like that.
Oh, did he? Did he
Yeah.
mention that? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know. But yeah, this is like men of comic books, and
When is this coming out?
I think it starts, is season 3 of Walking Dead already started?
Well,
No.
it's the second half of the second season. That starts.
That's
in
about to start?
February. Yeah,
It's starting with that. When a Walking Dead is coming back, it's following.
Oh no,
It's like a Super Bowl follow-in, like the
If
Walking
it's on
Dead.
Hulu, I might stream it for a minute.
Are they not doing the Talking Dead anymore?
I don't know. Maybe that's replacing. I know it's going after Walking Dead. That's all I know right now. And there is a trailer out there. I'm sure you can YouTube it.
Yeah, I'll watch it later.
Yeah.
Comment on it.
Let's see.
You're next on emails, man.
I got another email here. Man, this is a long ass email.
Shit.
but I'll read
It's
it.
a good thing I'm not reading it.
Hold on, maybe I'll move over to another one here. All right, this is actually a good one. This is a good one. Okay.
I feel bad for the guy that wrote that wrong.
No. I'll read it.
I'm gonna write this really good email. All he hears, man, this is a long email. We'll skip to the other one.
No. That is something when you write emails to the podcast, man, keep it. If we're trying to read it, it could take a long ass time.
You can put a max character or max word limit on the thing.
No, it's fine. Okay, this email's from Julian. He says, "Hey there, conspirators. I've been thinking lately about comic book characters in general, especially in regards to Marvel and DC. It led me to the question of where the next generation of comic book icons is. Seems like no one has been able to create a character that has the staying power or iconic statue of a Wolverine or a Green Lantern. The only character that has been close to that level might be Deadpool, but he's almost 20 years old at this point. And Batman has been dealing with most of his rogues gallery for almost 50 years. So where are the new icons in comics? Can people even make new characters that resonate in the way that the classics do? Did Stan Lee and Jack Kirby just break the mold? For me, I feel, for my part, I feel like Invincible could reach that level, but being an Image book makes it difficult from a visibility standpoint. I also think some of the villains introduced in the New 52 are strong, especially the new additions to Gotham like Mirror, Bone, and the Court of Owls. What do you guys think? Are we going to keep reading the same books 30 years from now that we've been reading all our lives? And this comes up pretty regularly. And the answer is, for the most part, yeah. I mean, there are no new good ideas, according to, everyone. So whenever they try to introduce new characters, a lot of the times they're just outright rejected. When they bring in new ideas, a lot of times people are like, no, I only want the good ones. But then people complain, where are the good characters? Where are the new characters? It's very tricky.
Well, I mean, John's brought us the lantern, different colored lanterns.
Mm-hmm. But in theory, you're spun off from the Lanterns. It's the only
you're
new.
spun off from
He
lanterns.
really likes Power Rangers, man. Don't you know?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, how many people love Bleez now? How many people love Atrocicus now?
Sure. The most recent 100% brand new Marvel or DC character or group of characters, and unless someone can correct me, I believe is still Runaways, that has had any sort of success. Runaways is completely original.
Which is kind of funny how you define success, because they're rebooting that series like every 2 years.
Well, it was very successful under the original run.
Yeah.
And then once Brian K. Vaughan left, just went down the tube. I mean, all the DC New 52 titles, now they have tons of new villains. Don't get me wrong, and a lot of new supporting characters, and that's something that DC has done a lot of with the New 52. But new heroes. I mean, you got a couple of new Teen Titans. They could throw a new Legion in every 5 minutes if they want to.
Yeah.
But those are all sort of. I mean, how original are any of those guys? So for the most part, you're looking at a pure book launch. Runaways, I believe, still is the most.
Runaways, maybe X-23, but she kind of crossed over
She's
from TV.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Oh, you mean completely?
Just completely original, completely separate from everything else. It wasn't like, Runaways isn't like Spider-Man's daughter or anything like that. I mean, there's no connection.
Runaways was really, really cool. It's just, I want to put it out there. It's one of my favorite books. Ryan knows. I own all the hardcovers.
I couldn't really get into it, but Brian K. Vaughan's really hit or miss for me.
I know. I love the characters in the book. I absolutely love the characters.
I know tons of people like that.
I keep hoping that, they do that show or book justice.
Yeah.
And for a while they were rumored to do a Runaways TV show and stuff, and I don't know what happened to that.
Well, back to the originality thing. I mean, if you look at all the characters that have stood the test of time, I mean, just look at Batman's gallery, right? You have Two-Face, Joker, Penguin, Catwoman, all those people carried over time. But there was a lot of characters that didn't carry over.
Oh, of course.
But are now kind of getting a second chance or a second look, like
a rehash, reboot.
Especially with Grant Morrison bringing a lot of older characters back, and when you seeing, John's focus a lot more on the Rogues Gallery for the Flash, bringing, updating those.
Well, villains are a little bit easier because you can have the villain. You can make new villains all the time.
Yeah.
Heroes are a lot harder because you have to sell a book.
People need to identify with them.
Yeah, so I mean, you talk Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman. Those characters all go back to the 30s and 40s. Yeah. Martian Manhunter into the 50s. Superman, or I'm sorry, like Spider-Man, the X-Men. All the Marvel guys. You have the big group in the 60s. You have a group in the 70s, your Wolverine, your Iron Fist, Ghost Rider. But even Ghost Rider was a takeoff of a 50s idea, just modernized.
Yeah.
And then
Is he actually take off that Western?
I mean, it's the same name.
Yeah, but is he actually a takeoff of that? The writer?
In the way that Barry Allen is a takeoff of Jay Garrick, sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the Flash and just updated.
Cool. No, I was curious about that. That was cool. I actually like both of them.
Yeah. So you get your Wolverine, but then again, Wolverine's a mutant and he spun out a Hulk, but then even that, like, he wasn't. I mean, I don't know if he was supposed to be a mutant when they first. Maybe, so even then, Wolverine's not original, quote unquote. So it's so hard, especially with Marvel and DC, because they're so ingrained in their own continuity.
Isn't there a new guy in X-Men, one that talks back to Wolverine, that's kind of been catching some?
Oh, you're talking about the
Quentin Quire?
Quentin Quire.
Isn't he new?
Morrison.
Well,
Yeah, he's from the Grant Morrison run.
yeah.
He's
Isn't he
from the
coming up a little bit?
But he's a mutant, so it's not original.
Yes.
And I guess a few of the Runaways are mutants, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I mean, but at what
And
point?
also, like there's a girl in X-Men that like has a red armor that can spill around her.
Yeah,
I
Armor.
like it. Yeah, I like her.
Yeah,
she's
cool.
really cool.
Yeah.
Armor was the 9th Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, I hope they do more things with her. Actually,
Yeah, Armor has basically been replaced now by what's her face?
Vampire Jubilee.
No, not Hope. No, Hope is Cable. No, she got replaced by the
Magic?
The chick from Generation Lost or Generation Hope, not Hope. The black girl that caused the Civil War thing between the X-Men. I can't remember her name.
Killed some people.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name.
She's the new Armor.
This shows you how much we care.
Who's the new Jubilee? Who's the new Kitty Pryde?
Yeah.
So very hard. Obviously the independent guys are going to be the ones creating the new characters. Marvel and DC
it's
don't
what
need to create them.
Invincible. Yeah, Invincible comes up, right? Yeah.
And Marvel and DC don't need to create new characters. What's the point?
I mean,
they
well,
can.
the thing is, do you think we're going to see a new kind of, not necessarily original, but a new take or a new kind of superhero for this generation emerge?
From Marvel and DC? No. I mean, I would say you'd be hard. I mean, you could say, Runaways is one of the best characters ever. But let's be honest, among a general populace, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man. I mean, obviously, like Iron Man and Captain America are well known now. No one knows who the hell.
Well, here's the thing: if you're Marvel or DC, what is more important, to come up with new characters, or make your current roster as good as it can be?
Well, you don't want to make new characters if you work for Marvel or DC because if you work for DC, yes, you should still be getting royalties because they have a pretty good royalty system.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though. I mean, look at Marvel and DC the last 10 years. They were concentrating on making Iron Man solid. They were concentrating on making Green Lantern solid. Instead of bringing new characters in, they're making some of these ones that have been neglected. Making them better.
This is the thing that kills me about fans a lot of times. They're like, oh, why don't we get new characters at Marvel and DC? Well, why do they have to be new at Marvel and DC?
Yeah.
There are plenty of new characters. All the time there are new superhero books being launched by tons of different companies.
Yeah, and you're talking about making new characters be more relatable today. I mean, I would say Ultimate Spider-Man would be one of those characters.
Sure.
That's exactly what they were doing, making him more relatable to kids today.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
But it's also one of those things where, I mean, a character like Batman, a character like Spider-Man, those have become brands. Those have become, like icons. Like you don't even need to see. You see a symbol and you know what they're talking about. So it's kind of, well, where do we get that kind of passion behind a character? That symbol that where Batman became the embodiment of fear in a sense.
Yeah.
Strike fear into the hearts of criminals and stuff. You see that logo, you're like, oh shit.
I mean, I'm trying to think back. Prior to Runaways, for Marvel and DC, you had like the Milestone characters, your Static Shock and
Static Shock
all those
and
guys.
What is the black guy? Jesus, I don't remember what it is.
Well,
but I know what you're talking about.
that's DC though, right? Static Shock.
Right. I'm saying within Marvel and DC,
Marvel had those weird Spider-Man knockoffs. Those 4.
but
Slider
they're
and
part of
whatever.
Spider-Man. In fact, I just earlier tweeted today that one of my favorite, more recent and brand new Marvel creations, Darkhawk, totally original, is getting his own Darkhawk Classics trade paperback, Volume 1, coming up in May.
Nice.
Add it to the list.
Nice.
Night Thrasher, for all intents and purposes, is not based around anything else.
Well, your New Warriors. I mean, most of those were kind of
but
the
those
new
those
90s.
are. Were they 90s? Hey,
Yeah, it was
earlier.
90s.
I mean, all those characters existed prior to, except for Night Thrasher. I mean, Nova came out in the 70s.
Go Night Thrasher.
Namorita was in like the late 60s when she first appeared.
But she's a Namor.
But they twisted them for the New Warriors to.
But I mean, not really.
Nuh-uh.
Speedball came out in the 80s. Who else was on that team? I think
Yeah, would you think that
Firestar was in the cartoon.
on Runaways that Nico Himura is actually a knockoff of Satana, kind of? She's like a younger Satana, really. Not really.
I mean, inspired maybe,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, she's not like Zatara
Yeah,
Jr. Zatanna Jr. I mean, that's what I mean.
Now, do you think like the characters that the reason why we haven't really had anything from independent comic books, in a sense, like, yeah, you can say Invincible is fairly close to a new character, even though he's based off of tidbits of every character.
Kick-Ass.
Oh, nah.
I mean, that's not. I mean, that's not Marvel, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't actually consider him a hero.
In the Marvel
they're
universe.
more making fun of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it seems independent comics, even Invincible, they're more poking fun or making a joke, like that empowered chick.
No.
She's like, I have this suit that keeps disintegrating, and it's like, what?
No.
It's hilarious.
The book that's really funny is what's it called? The Boys.
Oh yeah.
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 They're really making fun of superheroes.
Most independent books when they deal with superheroes are either going to do an extreme, like in the case of Invincible, where they'd be like, look, Marvel and DC can't show people getting their, well, I guess they can show people getting their head punched off or whatever, but, like real graphic. Yeah. Sometimes Invincible can get real graphic and kind of do different stories.
Invincible is far more graphic than Marvel or DC.
Or in a case like The Boys, where it's kind of this social commentary on the superhero, the superhero power corrupting. Or you get a lot of these books where, like, we want to take one concept, do a spin on it, but then that's it. So it's not an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the only two superhero like universes that have been created even in the last 30 years that actually stuck, and Valiant, and that's coming back. Those are all brand new characters except for Turok, Magnus, and
Ninja Turtles,
Solar.
But then they're a knockoff of Daredevil.
Yeah, but that's I mean, I'd count Turtles as original.
Yeah,
because they're not based. But again, we're all talking indie stuff, so it's really so hard. You're the new creations are not going to come from Marvel and DC at the end of the day.
I mean, do we hope that there's kind of a new twist on things? Sure.
Well, you know what? And this is the thing that I always argue against. If I want to read a new product, I don't go to Marvel and DC. I'll go to Vertigo. I'll go to Icon. I'll go to Image. I'll go to Dark Horse. But when I read Superman, or when I read Marvel and DC, I read Spider-Man and Superman. That's what I want.
You want to read your brand name.
Right. That's why I read it. I don't get this. People are like, oh no, why can't they create new stuff? Why do you want them to create new stuff? What does it matter? They don't need to. There are other companies out there. Go find those other companies. There's a lot of other stuff you can read.
But do go out and pick up those runaway trades.
Well, it's funny, like Callie asked me, she wants to read more comics, so I went on Comixology and downloaded some free comics to kind of give her a feel for stuff she might. She wants to read Fearless Dawn.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know what it is. It was like it's a chick. They're zombies. Okay.
Go for it.
But there's like a lot of, just looking at their free stuff, there's a lot of free stuff that you can just pick up and check out.
Huh?
Or if you go to your comic book store, stop, and if something looks good, flip through it.
Yeah. Go through those quarter bins, grab some cross-gen books. All right, bro.
Hey, those are good too.
Yeah.
Abba Sadad, how you say it.
Yeah,
that was an excellent book.
All right, Brock, read me an email.
Okay. Let's see. This one's from Mike. It looks like he's from the UK because his address ends in UK.
All right.
Over the last year or so, I decided to try reading comics monthly as they were released, but the time between is making the stories feel a bit disconnected to me, especially those with storylines spanning 6 or more issues, where I have to reread all the old issues each time just to jog my memory of what happened. He's probably talking about Grant Morrison stuff, but, I don't know. This is no real complaint, as I understand it's just the way that the monthly comic format works, but I think it is in a way worsening the comics for me, so I have decided to go back to reading collected editions. In spite of this issue, I did really enjoy having some new comics to pick up each month, keeping up to date and having discussions on the stories. As I said, my problem was that was mainly with the long storylines, which spanned 6 or so comics. Superman Grounded nearly killed me. Yeah, it nearly killed everyone, don't worry. So I am trying to find comics with done-in-one stories or with shorter story arcs, comic that might fit my reading style better. Currently, I'm looking into picking up All-Star Western, as I have heard that the stories generally only span 2 issues or less. Correct me if this is wrong. And maybe DC Universe presents as the stories will be limited to a finite number of issues, preventing them from going on for a long time. Some feedback on these comics would suit my needs, and any other comic suggestions would be appreciated.
Yeah. Get up. Gotta give some some humph when you're reading this.
Appreciated.
And so when you do the thing, and I want to know the comic book, like give some life, Brock, some life. Jazz it up a bit.
All right, Q-Tip and Five Dog.
I don't get that.
All right, never mind.
Is he Q-Tip?
Yeah.
Do you call me cute?
I'd rather be Five Dogs.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Maybe only. All right. There's an odd reference.
This is the another problem that seems to plague the comic book industry is done-in-one stories versus ongoing soap opera narratives. And the long and the short of it is done-in-one stories tend to not sell very well. End of story. Long soap opera narratives tend to sell really well. Why? Because it keeps you hooked and coming back for more issues. That said, there are many great books that are done in one or one story, like your Watchmen's, your Dark Knights.
Yeah.
There's lots of them. So it's hard.
All-Star Western, I think 3 issues was the first story arc.
I mean, they're
not
short.
Mistaken.
Yeah. Jonah Hex was done in 1, done in 2 pretty regularly.
Yeah.
All-Star Western, they've seemed to expand it out a little bit more, but not too bad.
Yeah.
So.
No, I understand his thought process, because there's a lot of stuff that I've decided to read in trade versus in single issue, like Walking Dead, because I get enough with a trade to be like, ooh, I'm hooked, I'm ready to read the next one.
Walking Dead's hard to read issue to issue.
And it's hard to read issue to issue because it's like you get and then
Yeah.
And I think that's partially why I don't watch TV on a regular basis. I wait for the DVDs because I like that big chunk if I'm going to watch something. Because, you do forget month to month what, like with some of the New 52 stuff, I'm like, what happened last issue? What happened a few issues ago? And it is a little jarring to come to something and go, well, what the hell was I just reading? Go back and rereading it.
I mean, I actually do like Marvel's recap page a lot. I wish DC would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Did a good job. Recap pages are helpful to kind of get the juices flowing. That's right. I remember that now. Because if you read more than a handful of comics, it's really easy to be like, what the hell? Usually by the first page or two, I'm like, I remember what happened last issue. Okay.
I have noticed. Sorry to interrupt, but I have noticed that if you read a single issue and you enjoy it single issue and you still feel a little disconnected, if you go and reread it in trade, it's a really good reread. Whereas, for the most part, like Flashpoint, I haven't gotten to reading it yet, but I know that when I read it in whole, I'll enjoy it.
You haven't read Flashpoint?
No, I read the singles. I haven't gone. I enjoyed it, but like I said, I felt a little disconnected. Same thing with like Brightest Day and all that stuff. I haven't gotten back to reading them, but like Black Mirror. The Scott Snyder, reading that single issue was a little jarring.
Yeah.
Going back and forth because they switched stories up on you. But then going back and reading the trade, there's a reason that thing has been sold out. But it's difficult. I mean, Toby, what do you think do you read that too much single issue anymore?
Nah, well, I've been reading some of the New 52s and Punisher is kind of it, but I do enjoy that they write for trades, just because I've always been used. I always loved trades, just because when I grew up in Europe, that's how they sold them. They did little digests, so I've always been used to. And all the Asian stuff that I read, like the mangas, it's trades, So I always been trained to like trades, and the single issues that way make sense to me. But yeah, I do think it's probably hard to remember. I mean, it happens on TV too. I do like the little recaps, but I do like that they write for trades 6-issue runs. I do like it at 6 though, like the half year one story and let it go, or a bunch of short stories. But Yeah, I do know it's a little frustrating sometimes, on especially some of the harder books, and it does make it hard to continue a book. Like Batman, I'm not sure which Batman I read on the New 52. Now I'm a little confused which one is which now, right? So I do have to go back and flip through also, and a guy like me that has so many comics laying around, I have a hard time finding some of the older issues, so yeah, I'm even more confused. But, you gotta look in past that. So, the trades, you could steer people to it. If there's storylines that you like, you'd be like, look, start here and continue through here. And then if you want to be current, go over to single issues. So I do like the fact they write it towards that, have a kind of a long-term goal in mind rather than just do short stories all the way through. So it's a good, like everything in life, you got to have a little of both, right? It's got to be a little balancing act.
The problem with the long form stories, though, is when you have characters or creators that leave the book and leave all these plot lines dangling.
Yeah, like Grounded.
It happens all the time. So that is
JMS, Michael Straczynski.
well, going back to Claremont in the 80s and 90s, the X-Men, ton of unresolved plot lines, all the Fabian Nicieza X-Men stuff. Coming even more recently, James Robinson on JLA, there was a bunch of stuff that kind of felt unresolved, and they sort of like,
this is too bad when it happens.
Yeah. So when you kind of have a short story, and you're like, I'm going to do this particular thing, and you don't get editorial influence halfway through.
You and I have talked about this a little bit. Is where you kind of get that epic fatigue, in a sense, where if like with Green Lantern especially, those stories would carry, 8, 9 issues at a time, and you kind of felt like you needed a little, just a little break.
Well, if you're going 8, 9 issues and you're still kind of in like the same day or two, that's when it's kind of like, As much as I like Blackest Night and it reads so well in a trade, by around issue 7 and 8, I was like, oh man, this is like taking for this really is a long.
This 24 hours
series.
Is really long.
Yeah.
Hence again, I kind of like the 6-issue arcs. I do.
Yeah.
I kind of like the old, like the regular trades where
the 6-issue arc is written very well because it's the first issue is the introduction.
Yeah,
and you have this, the second, third, and.
Well, you almost compare them up. It's like 2-issue intro. The other 2 is like the middle, and the other 2 is the end. So it makes a lot of sense.
So, but yeah, it is disconcerting, and I do think that's where the comic book industry kind of loses some interest, is especially nowadays with people's brains being wired for such instant gratification.
Sure.
Like I know my girlfriend has a difficult time at least reading the 4 comics that she's into, kind of especially like Huntress or like remembering what happened the month prior, and she's only reading 1 book a week. So for her, it's like, where is it going? But the thing is the titles have caught her interest enough that it keeps her interested. So
yeah, that's cool.
It's one of those things where but her interest will definitely wane if it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's do some random picks here. I think you didn't have any more emails, right? That was all of them.
No, I have one more email.
You have one more?
Yeah.
Did you read your long?
Hurry up.
Did you read your long one?
I can no longer go on the internet, so I can't read it. So
what?
I don't know. My internet just crapped out on me. So read your last email, Brock, and we'll.
All right. This is from Joshua Redding. That says, "Dear Ryan, Brock, and Toby, first off, thanks for the recommendations as far as Seven Soldiers goes. I picked up the first issues of the miniseries in the quarter boxes of my local comic book store." Why are they in the quarter box? That's
no, good for him.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, good for him.
No, a good find.
And so far, the artwork is impressing me more than the story, but I think I will stick with it. I was curious about what the very first comic was for each of you, and if that influenced what you enjoy today. My first comic was JLA Titans: The Technus Imperative, and I still own it to this day. I'm not sure if you've ever read it, but it was basically JLA versus every Titans character ever. It inspired a love in me of Argent and Zariel, oddly enough, and I still feel like they both are horribly underutilized, saved by Grant Morrison back in the days of him writing good comics. Unlike Batman Incorporated. Ooh. The Cheers and Merry Christmas.
Batman Incorporated, the Comicspiracy 2011 pick of the year?
Yeah.
All right, okay, just make sure.
Cheers and Merry Christmas once again. Wow, this was Christmas?
Wow.
Jeez.
Told you, I had some old emails.
And there's one point I think you were complaining that there wasn't any email.
Yeah, we got a bunch, and then we just didn't read them for a while.
Yeah. I think we've
talked our first comics before, but let's hit them again. Brock,
First comic I can actually remember picking up was Batman and the Outsiders #1. So just because
that wasn't new off the shelf. That
was a back issue purchase because I had a couple bucks and I was in Brian's Books when it was in this dinky little strip mall by my house. And
you're local here, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I had Batman on the cover, and he was saying basically "F you" to the Justice League, and it was like this looks cool. So, and it's I haven't read all the Outsiders comic books because I've been in and out of comic books all my life, but I'm slowly getting all of them.
Now, what made this a little different than what we talked about before is, do you think it, like the email said, do you think that influenced you what you read now? I mean, I think that's mainly his question, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think it influences what I read now. I think a big part of what influences what I read now was just growing up reading comic books and being into comic books and kind of having the culture behind it. I mean, you introduced me to Sandman when we were in high school, and I ate that stuff up like there was no tomorrow, and I've really enjoyed a lot of Vertigo titles since that. I think it's just where you're introduced and how you're introduced to comic books kind of steers you in a direction, and I think that's a lot of times why maybe now going through the evolution of, interested in no money to having money to buying and collecting and trying to get everything to being more of a reader instead of a collector. That's why I'm now more along the lines of like, I'm cutting that title because it's not hitting a mark for me anymore. And I think that, maybe that's probably just how my evolution of comics has come about. Whether or not it's because I bought Batman and the Outsiders 1, I can't say.
Toby, how about yourself? I think we talked about your first comics pretty recently, but
well, I grew up with kind of all kinds of comics. From the Asian Doraemon and Saint Seiya and Slam Dunk and stuff. But and there's comic books that I got from the bank. The bank had like a B comic that was like a it was actually kind of cool. But and Mickey Mouse, there's like a weekly Mickey Mouse in Europe, besides the Asterix, Tintin, and Lucky Luke. But superhero wise, I think my earliest memory is of Christopher Reeve as Superman, and I forgot how it started. Either I had a T-shirt of it or something. I knew I liked Superman just because I think I saw parts of the movie at a restaurant and it just blew my mind, right? And I like became an instant fan of superheroes, and I wanted a book, and I didn't know that was like comic book. I mean, I was so young, I didn't know. I mean, all is media is
Sure.
You don't know it starts from comic book, and then I think I found a comic book of it. I mean, I knew what comic books were at the time. I just didn't know Superman's from a comic book. But at a kiosk, I found one of the books, I think, at the airport, and I made my mom buy it for me, and it was Superman fighting like these 3 flying cowboys that are sitting on these Pegasuses and stuff.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I think I know that issue. That's issue 3.
What?
I think that's issue 3 of the Superman series relaunched.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, if I remember right, it kind of looks like what's this guy's art? The guy who did X-Men for a while, John Byrne. It kind of looks like John Byrne art, if I remember correctly. And again, it's a little digest, so it actually had that Grant Morrison Man for Tomorrow book where
Alan Moore, I mean.
Is it the Alan Moore one
where
Superman is like dying or something, and then
he's got the Black Mercy, the face hugger thing.
Yeah, the face hugger thing is that was like the end of the book. So that was like my very, very, very first superhero book. Now, on the back of it though, so it's a Superman digest. On the back of it, they have Batman, and it was like all these covers for these Batman books, and I was like instantly like, well, first of all, on that end, on that Alan Moore run, there's a picture of Superman flying away, and there's a bunch of heroes below, right? Which was like, wow, there's more than just Superman, right?
Yeah.
Now on the back of the book, there's Batman. There's a bunch of Batman like books on there, and I was like, I need to know who this guy is, right? So. Again, there's not a lot out there, so we found another digest, and it was, I think my goddad found it for me, and it was Batman fighting Hugo Strange. So that was my first Batman book right there.
Real quick, does this happen to be part of the cover here? This is it Terra Man?
All right, hold on, let me look.
Let me see here. Is this Terra Man?
Yeah, that's not the one, but looks like
the guy, yeah.
It looks like him.
Terraman,
It looks a little more recent.
Terraman, the classic cowboy Superman villain. Yes, terrible Superman villain.
What issue was that?
That's definitely the guy, but I think it was a more recent art of it. Yeah. But so I got my first Batman book. Those were given to me, so I read those to death. And
Yeah.
later on, I had a Spider-Man sticker, and then Spider-Man Amazing Friends was on TV. Eventually, I got old enough to save my own money, and then I bought my first Spider-Man book, which was a team-up between Punisher and Spider-Man. And the second half of it was like a Moon Knight book. And again, it kind of developed my universe. So Moon Knight has always been a soft spot for me just because of that book.
Yeah.
And then when I first came over here to America, at the airport I bought Darkhawk, some of the other random books, and Gambit #2. So, yeah, I do think they influenced quite a bit. I kind of like the second tier characters. I like Darkhawk. I like the New Warriors. I kind of like I love my core, but then
Sure.
I really do like my second tier guys, like the Gambit books, and
Yeah.
nowadays I really like Nightwing and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it did influence me quite a bit.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I've stated, New Warriors and Darkhawk were some of the first books I bought. Darkhawk number 4, I believe, being the first one I bought, and then New Warriors shortly after that. And obviously, still being big fans of his characters these days. I would say probably the same thing. It definitely got me interested. I like the smaller, the B, C, D-list characters more than I do Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Iron Man. I do like these kind of more
Now,
obscure
did you know
characters.
what they were to begin? See, now,
No.
Superman, Batman were the anchors for me.
I mean, I knew what they were.
Yeah, I mean,
them.
they were the ones that drew me in. And then through that, it was like, wow, there's a whole world behind this. There's
Right.
all these other heroes that exist,
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at the rack, I mean, I don't remember my thought process, but something said, yeah, I see Superman and the X-Men, but I want this dark. It's different. It's
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
And I've always liked something that was a little bit different. That's the way I am with music. That's the way I am with everything. So I try to avoid the mainstream, quote unquote, as much as possible when I can. I mean, obviously, when it comes to superhero stuff now in Marvel and DC, I mean, I love all these big characters, but I don't have a shrine to Superman in my house. I have a shrine to Firestorm in my house. So I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I thought it was a shrine to Nova.
I have that too. I have my New Warrior shelf as well. I mean,
Wait,
I
did you
have
say Firestorm or Firestar?
Firestorm. Yeah, I have like 20 Firestorm action figures
Wow.
and statues and stuff. Yeah,
But the only thing that's missing from this is a storm fire.
yeah.
That's what
'Cause
you
have,
need.
you have Firestar,
Yeah.
Firestorm,
Yeah.
Starfire. Those are 3 of my favorite characters right there.
I see a
So they
thing
need
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I mean,
Why don't you like Storm?
Storm's okay, but she needs fire in there as well.
She needs
Why don't you
Phoenix?
fire from
Storm,
JLI?
Storm and
Phoenix?
fire. Storm and fire
Yeah.
mixed together.
storm or fire from JLI?
That's a different company.
So?
Idiot. So when you combined all these minor characters together, I mean that definitely is what I like to this day. I mean the craziness of Batman Incorporated, of all the obscure characters he brings in, that Animal Man. I mean those are 2 of my favorite books of last year. So I do like it when they kind of reach out and try something different, which is what the email we were talking about before. But then I said I don't want to read something different when it comes to Marvel and DC, but I kind of do. But then I kind of don't. I like the new and different that's already existing.
I think it's balance. I really do think it's a balance.
Yeah, yeah,
You need a little of both.
yeah. It makes
Well,
sense.
it's one of those things where at some point in time something new needs to be introduced to the brand.
Right.
Be it a villain, be it like Batman and the Outsiders was technically the first step to Batman Incorporated. That
Right.
they didn't actually continue on that line, but Morrison was like, you know what, we can do this, and he did.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I think that the ideas are there, but they might not be the time for them to be executed, or it might be nice to revisit, because everyone has that character, that little soft spot, C or D list character
Moon
that
Knight
they,
versus Bushman, man.
yeah, that they
Stuff
want
was awesome.
that they want to see more of, because this is a character, that they really enjoy. Like for me, I've enjoyed seeing Deadman a little bit more in the comic books. It's nice to see. Before Rob Liefeld's take on Hawk and Dove, it was nice to see Hawk and Dove coming back into the comic books and being a little more. And it was, I think, for me with 52, the year-long series where we got to see these not mainstream characters. We got to see,
again, one of my favorite series.
Because it's giving us more of DC than just Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman.
Right.
It's giving us more depth to the characters that we've grown up with.
Right.
Yeah, I have to say, I think Outsiders were in my second Batman book I ever gotten, with the Blue Lightning guy.
Black
Katana.
Lightning?
Yeah, is it Black Lightning?
Yeah, Black Lightning.
Katana. Some of the names were different when I read them. Katana and then the Metamorpho.
Yeah,
guy.
Metamorpho.
Yeah, so I really liked it. And then the other guys were in it, like the metal guys with the D on their chest were in there too.
The Metal Men?
Like, were they called Metal Men, or they would like bend and stuff? They're like,
that was Metal Man.
That was probably the 90s series.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't read it yet because I have to bind it first.
Nice.
Because there's no trades.
Well,
We like stuff that there's no trades.
See, now the way I read them, the first half might be one book, and the second half might be a different book. So
Big Metal Man series.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're running a little long here, so let's do some really quick picks of the week here.
Long. Run it.
My pick of the week is Prophet number 21 that came out last week from Image Comics.
Which is now going for like $15 on eBay.
This is okay. So a bunch of really terrible comics came out in the '90s from Extreme Studios, which is one of Rob Liefeld's
God.
terrible companies.
More Rob
Of
Liefeld
terrible.
bashing.
Well, what do you want? They're awful. I mean, have you seen the first 20 issues of Prophet? They're terrible.
With Platt's artwork?
Platt did do Prophet? Did he?
Yeah, he did like the first 5 issues.
Oh, I'm sure he didn't even do that. This is all bad anyway. So I never read a single one of these. I have no idea what the hell went on.
you
those
didn't
first
read the
20
Avengers?
issues. Yeah, basically, right? I mean, that's not.
Yeah, you didn't read the Avengers and the Hawkman, or no, Hawkeye, or not Hawkman, Hawkeye, and whatever else he.
That's all it was, right?
developed,
Wasn't
yeah.
Prophet like a cable ripoff or something?
I don't know.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Image has decided to basically take all these really bad Rob Liefeld properties and totally relaunch them. We're getting a new Glory book, getting like a new Bloodsport book, and Prophet, and they're taking them from like where the numbering left off. Although I assume
Bloodsport?
Bloodsport, yeah,
Isn't it Bloodshot?
that's Valiant.
No, you're thinking of the Archer, the Hawkeye guy, no?
The Blood
Or
Strike?
Red Arrow.
Is it
that
Blood Strike?
I think it's Blood Strike.
Blood,
It's all
Blood
dumb.
something.
It's terrible, whatever it is.
Yeah, don't you know the rule?
What? No more Youngblood?
Don't you know the Robert Liefeld rule is you have to take a existing Marvel or DC character, add the name Dead or Blood to it,
Yeah.
and you put some horns
So how
on
did
it.
Prophet come into existence?
I don't know.
Yeah. So, Prophet that came out this week is by not Rob Liefeld. It is by Brandon Graham or by Simon Roy. I'm not familiar with Simon Roy. He's a pretty cool artist, though. Brandon Graham has done a lot of just like weird small indie books. Has not done much kind of quote unquote mainstream work. But he's got this is a pretty cool book. I wasn't quite sure what to make of this when I flipped through it, but I kind of given it a second once over. It kind of grew on me a little bit. It's about a guy. Now, again, I have no idea what happened in the first 20 issues of this, so to the best of my knowledge, this is the first issue. I have no idea if this connects to anything prior. But it's about a guy who basically...
Prophet Volume 2, Issue 1.
No, it's Prophet 21. It says it right there.
No, they're eluding it's 21. It's actually Volume 2, Issue 1.
It says 21 inside.
Damn it.
He basically is this guy who wakes up from this sort of suspended animation, pops out of this capsule on some really weird alien world. He bashes some alien monsters in the head. He runs around. He gets some stuff to survive.
So is this Alien?
He finds a bunch
I don't know,
of...
didn't watch it. Didn't we go over that already?
yeah.
He finds like, some weird alien stuff. He kind of has sex with this alien thing that kind of looks like it has a vagina for a head. That we are unsure if it's a man or a woman or what it is.
Johnny Head.
And then she stabs
honestly,
him in the stomach and rips something out
I
of
think
him.
Brock wants to read it.
Dude, seriously, you are not making people want to read this.
So she stabs. So she.
Well, Ryan is the guy that has the art with the giant penis with
This
the
is
Superman.
true.
Yeah.
It stabs Prophet. Is this guy's name? I don't know. In the stomach and pulls something outside of him, and then sews him back up, and he walks away. And then there's these guys, kind of monkey alien guys or whatever, with stuff watching him. And he's heading towards the towers of Tauliava. So there you go. This Prophet number 21. Seriously, this is a crazy ass book. Like really, it's really fucking weird, and I totally recommend it. It's this. I had no idea what to expect going in because I was like, oh, this is basically a dumb Rob Liefeld thing. No, it's actually. It totally reminds me of some like crazy Mobius style European heavy metal book.
Yeah.
Like, it is not any like. I'm kind of. I mean, I told you what really happened in the book. I'm kind of being jokey about the way I'm describing it, but it is very bizarre and it's very cool. And I Glory and Blood, whatever
Strike.
The other books. I don't know about those. Those kind of look a little weird, like a bad weird, not a good weird. But this one kind of piqued my interest, and
It was the him having sex with a man, woman, alien. That's
maybe it's just bizarre. It's bizarre as hell. But it really has that feel of some sort
It
of...
looks like he's smoking pot with the alien head.
Yeah, he's like smoking afterwards or something. And I have no idea what this book's about, but it's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool
I
first
flipped
issue.
through this and put it down.
It's a pretty cool first issue.
There's too much vagina looking stuff in it for me.
Yeah.
Just like all those Draw Like Terry Moore books at the end.
Oh, jeez.
Did the other ones come out already, or
That's
just
the
this
first
one?
issue.
That's
Just
the
came out
first
this
one?
last week, yeah.
No, I mean, did the other Rob Life?
No, Glory's out like next month, and it's like one a month. They're basically launching them. now.
No. What's the did they make any announcement about this? Nothing.
I'm sure they did, but I have no idea. It's just like, yeah, we're relaunching all these old,
Now it's
all
like
these old
Rob,
titles.
Rob wanted this, or he
I
just
don't-
let it go.
I
What do
think
you
he just
like?
let it go.
Reimagine my
Yeah,
stuff?
I think so. I think so. Brock, you got a pick.
No, Toby can do a pick. I'm trying to figure out.
Toby, you got a pick.
Now I've been completely hooked on a new TV show, or it's not new.
What?
It's called The Wire. Now, in dedication to The Wire, I will go recommend 100 Bullets.
Huh?
It's very, very similar. Now, The Wire and 100 Bullets started off as something fairly simple storyline or, point of view, and it just kind of keeps going, and the world gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you go like, holy fuck, man, this is like the coolest, best thing ever. So, yeah, in dedication to The Wire, which is, I think, one of the top 5 shows of all time, I will recommend 100 Bullets, which is about this dude that comes around. Well, again, this is how it starts. This, old guy comes around to a guy that's been done wrong and gives him a briefcase with a gun and 100 bullets and say, this is untraceable, you could do whatever you want, but it's your choice, go do whatever you need to do. And what he chooses to do impacts the world in a different way. And like I said, when you first read it, you think it's a fairly simple, short storyline thing. But and the first trade actually I had a really hard time reading through. I was like, I couldn't get. I mean, I didn't think it was that great. But once I made it to the third book, and I was like, it just blew my mind. I mean, it's like really, really cool stuff going on. There's like a character that gets set up to kill his own dad, and he doesn't do it. And his dad knows actually what's going on. He actually knows the guy with the briefcase and stuff like that. So it's. Yeah, the third book is just amazing, amazing stuff. So I really highly recommend 100 Bullets. One of the Vertigo classics.
Yeah, I had difficulty getting through the first trade.
Yeah, the first trade is really, it's the language. It's
the ghetto ebonics.
Yeah.
The hardest.
Well, it's a Latino one, right? If it's the other one, I have had an easier time, which I think maybe why I got through the third book a lot easier. But it's once you get through the first
once
one,
you get through the first trade, it starts to pick up, and then
you kind of start seeing a little dominoes falling. You go, oh, and then it just kind of doesn't
A lot of people
stop.
complained towards the end of that series. It went away from what it was originally, but it was kind of it had a long setup for these characters that eventually that took over the story. But 100 Bullets is a great series.
Yeah.
Brothers Brian K. Vaughan. So
No,
Brian
Brian
Azzarello.
Azzarello.
oh sorry Brian. Azzarello.
Brian K. Vaughan is Runaways.
Why?
All right, Brock.
All right, my pick of the week.
Really? Is he Runaways? Brian K. Vaughan? Yeah.
Runaways, Why the Last Man.
Yeah. Why the Last Man was still the other one I was thinking of, yeah. That's not... Why the Last Man is really good, too.
Mine's going to be... I looked this up. I haven't recommended it yet. But I really enjoyed the Justice League Generation Lost.
Cool.
Which...
Miniseries from last year.
Yeah, came out of Brightest Day. It was kind of a JLI revisited story. Really, really good.
Very disappointed that Judd Winnick did not do the Justice League international,
the current
New 52 title, since he did such a good job with Generation Lost.
And it was, I think that Generation Lost, if they had carried over at least the idea and the feeling of that book, I think a lot more people would probably be interested in Justice League International.
Yeah.
I still enjoy Justice League International for what it is. It's the, second string Justice League team, which is always funny to read about. But yeah, really, really good story. Mainly around Maxwell Lord coming back. That's where...
Yeah, in Brightest Day, Maxwell Lord, one of the big villains of the DC Universe, came back, and Generation Lost is sort of this small group of former Justice Leaguers who remember who he is, because he kind of erases everyone's memory, and then they're going and searching him out and trying to take him down before he can destroy, take over the world or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, real good book, really good.
Yeah, no, he didn't want to take over the world. He wanted to kill Wonder Woman.
Well, he wanted to. He took over Checkmate, and he wanted to. Yeah.
But he had the underlining thing of revenge to get Wonder Woman because she snapped.
She killed him.
She killed him.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, he came back.
He came back after Blackest Night. He was one of the characters that came back that was going to affect the DC universe, which we've never really talked about. That we should probably bring that up in another episode. The fact that everything that happened out of Blackest Night with all these characters that we get out of Brightest Day, did all those finish?
Mm-hmm.
They did?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I can go through and figure out which ones, but yeah, they all finished.
Well, I know Captain Boomerang finished because he was supposed to throw the boomerang.
Yeah, they all did.
They all died.
Some of them did.
Some of them.
All right. Time to wrap up this long-ass episode. If you want to listen to this episode or more episodes, you can go to www.geekbox.net, where we hosted this podcast, as well as the Geekbox and the Comedy Button. Yeah, you can go listen to those too. They're pretty good.
Or you can listen to...
Brock's actually going to be on the Geekbox this week.
Tomorrow
night. So if you want to... If you can't...
Weren't you on the Geekbox before quite a bit?
Yeah, well, no, I'm changing hats. I'm not going to be Conspirator Brock anymore. I'm going to go back to being Roadie Brock.
Yeah. If for some reason you can't get enough of Brock, and God, I wouldn't know why, you can hear him tomorrow night on the Geekbox as well. Brock, God, you're so easy to pick on. Jeez.
What?
I don't know. Just the way the face you make, it just makes it so easy and funny when I do it.
Smile?
You're like, if you want to send us an email, the comicconspiracy@geekbox.net, you can shoot us an email there, and we'll read it on the podcast when we have nothing else to talk about.
Limit it to
whatever,
1,000 words.
Say as much as you want. I don't care. You can visit Brock's blog.
Just the internet happens to go down.
Yeah,
it did. No, it totally did.
It just happened.
It came back. It came back up, but it totally went down for a while.
When you're supposed to read that long email,
you can go to Brock's blog, conspiratorbrock.com. That's fun stuff there. You can hit me up on Twitter, Ryan Higgins Ryan. Hit Toby up on TobyXI. Brock doesn't use Twitter yet, and we're trying to work him on that. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else?
Why do you want me to sign up for Twitter?
Is that it? Forums.geekbox.net. You can go on the comic forum there and say hey to us, and on the comic conspiracy post on the main forum and say hey and argue with Kenzo and Liquid and Jinpei, and that's about
or just watch them argue.
It's about 9/10 of every post and every episode of our podcast with them fighting for 6 days. So yeah, that's about it.
Can we do like an episode where they all hear instead of us and see what happens?
Good Lord, God, it would be like a fucking meltdown.
It would be genius.
Oh Jesus Christ! All right,
maybe we have to put cages around them.
That wouldn't work. We'd have to have mediators.
All right,
forget it. Just let them loose. Just let them loose.
It'd be worse than
maybe we have to host them not in the story if you want a story after that.
That's where we have to figure out the caller thing.
Yeah.
And then we have to get the mute button going on.
All right.
We do have an explicit tag, so it's all good.
Yeah, this is true. I guess that's it. We'll catch you guys next week.
All right.
What?
And we'll catch you guys next weekend.